Girls, it is that time. A 1 day tardy, I guess a week and a half tardy, Jimbo. But yes, a 3-man weave has been reduced to a 2-man weave just for the purpose of keeping the trains on the tracks. Our beloved third soldier, Mr. McKee and Kai, is over in Switzerland, Jim, that Bavarian bastard, doing taking some much needed time away as we all do this time of year. How are you? Haircut looks sharp, I will say. Very sharp. I'm quite overdue for a trim myself.
Thanks, Matt. Good to speak with you. You're coming in hot with the language on our
Yeah.
non-explicit
Let's get him
pod
get him
here.
up.
So
Get him
sorry,
get him
folks, if
listening.
you're listening with your sons or daughters. Matt's really he's gonna be on his best behavior after this. We're back to the old school technology wise here. We don't have Kai's OBS expertise with the on-screen visual. So we're just hanging out. Two boxes into Zoom once again, way back like we used to, and we're excited to talk to the people. It's been 2 weeks, Matt, so it's time to discuss a little bit of portally type stuff, not quite transfer rankings or anything yet, but we're going to get into a little bit of who needs what or who is all set so far in the portal.
Who needs what? What do they need? Remaining portal needs is the general yet fluid title of this podcast. Yeah, we'll go a little deeper, I think, later in the year once everything's finalized. But with the portal officially closing, slamming shut, I believe, last night at midnight, was really hoping we'd see a lot more of like at the buzzer transfers, but most of the kids did the right thing, and we're not,
Well, you saw
shitheads.
you saw
And
the rule, right?
yeah, you could actually not officially enter, but send a text to someone just as documentation to prove that you entered. So there could be more names, just what you're saying, Jim, right? There could be a few more that
Yeah.
like, haha, I
Absolutely
was
absurd that
in.
it's just like at 11:57, I've had three tequila sodas and I'm like, I'm gonna tell
I'm
them I'm
gone.
going in. And it's
Jim, the
like,
most clairvoyant thoughts though are always had after three TNSs for sure. So I understand that approach. That's what if that would push some of these kids out. I yeah, there's a lot of movement. I feel like I was keeping on top of it. Then like I took like maybe a slight week off, and Jim cannot because Jim Root is currently the master and commander of the ongoing roster sheet, a publicly available spreadsheet with all of the updated rosters. Jim, very helpful for me behind the scenes, and now available for public consumption for a
yeah,
very,
let me
very
plug that.
small
Let me plug
price.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
it's
go.
$10 and you get access to all 364, it's gonna be 364 teams next year, thanks to Mercyhurst and West Georgia. But it's all of the transfer portal activity, ins and outs are listed for every single team. You've got stats, per game stats for every player, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage on there. I've got a portal database where you can see everybody who's gone or who's still available. Got a little bit of a manual subjective ranking. They're not perfect, but I think they generally are very directional for where the guys should belong, what level they should be at. So that's one tab, one database. Then, yeah, tab for every other conference. Totally think that if you are tracking rosters at all, let me do it for you. It is worth the $10. I'm grinding away over here. Four different coaching staffs, Matthew, in the
Nice. How
college
about
basketball
that?
landscape have access to it. So apparently it must be useful if it's good enough for, and two of them are even power conference, another mid-major, and two mid-majors actually. So if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for you. $10 for all of your roster tracking needs. It's right there for you. Highly encourage checking that out. Just send me an email, send the Weave an email, or DM me on Twitter, or I have instructions to buy it on my Twitter at Second Chance Points as well.
Yeah, I mean, for coaches especially, Jim, I feel like that could be if you're any assistant right now, listen, I know we have some assistant and coach intertwines in our network here. Just a no-brainer to have like just a one snapshot view of teams that are on your schedule, et cetera. So, yeah, do it. Just do it.
Yeah,
Because I already
just
have,
realize it's
and I have for
five. It's
years.
five coaching staffs actually, and three power conference. So,
Let's
oh, the
fucking go. Are we
tentacles are
growing by
spreading.
the? All right, Jim William.
Yeah.
I need an updated count of coach throughout the show today. But it is episode number 350 something.
351.
Remaining portal needs, yes. Before we go any farther, of course, JPD, aka Joe Pascal, thank you for the work you do on the intro and outro music, the best in the college basketball realm. Please follow us on Twitter. That's at 3MW_CPB. The same handle applies on the gram. Has got some content from Switzerland. Me and Jim's lives are fairly stoic right now. So all of the summertime shy is kind of starting to wiggle its way into the forefront. And that's just a good thing. That's just a great
Yep.
thing that we all like. So
I did
um,
not put up any pictures or videos from the Joe Pascal bachelor party in Wyoming/Idaho, but
Big
trust
Sky.
that there was a lot of denim, a lot of plaid, flannel, a lot of chopping up wood for no reason, seeing moose, seeing bears. We tried to see a bear. We didn't actually see a bear. Went paintballing. It was a great time. Shout out to Joe Pascal. His wedding is in almost exactly a month. Excited for that.
One of the best. Speaking of the best, we're the best. And it's why you should subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Apple/iTunes, I should add, where you can leave us reviews, preferably of the 5-star variety. It's what we strongly encourage. We've actually tried to bribe those to do that in the past. So just go ahead and follow instructions. Anything below that makes you a Benedict Arnold. And there's been a few of those that we've seen so far in the portal season. We'll actually talk about them today. Kobe Johnson, USC. Jim, new reviews. We're going to holster those, correct?
Yeah,
is my teleprompter up
at the
today?
very
Thank
end.
you.
We do have 2 new reviews. I was able to figure out how to do it.
Nice.
Kai, usually our review guy, but yes, those are in the outline. We'll be discussing them at the very end of the podcast, unless we forget, which, could happen.
I was hoping both the reviews were actually from Switzerland. Like Kai was telling people about the podcast abroad and they immediately listened and reviewed. And so we're kind of, hammering that market internationally. We're not that global quite yet. New website updates, negative. Maybe in the future, we might be making some collage. Jim is probably next on the to-do list. That's always the best part of the offseason project is our favorite quasi-favorite players plastered on a beautiful mural of inserted images from the internet.
Yeah, I think that usually ends up being closer to the year because we wait.
Yeah, we always wait to
what teams are guys on and are they going to go pro, et cetera, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a fun little feature of the site. It used to mean more when we wrote more on the site. Unfortunately, we have spread our wings elsewhere. Maybe we'll be more active on the site in the future. We'll see. It's our path moving forward, Matt, is very to be determined at this point.
Yes, it is. I'll leave that pause as a suspense of maybe there's more to come on that. We have nothing else to add, but stay tuned. Yes, as Jim mentioned, we're kind of morphing into, the second or third evolution of our Pokemon eras as content, dude. So yeah, we'll see. Anyway, we'll keep you posted. We will also keep you posted on the news and notes of what's happened with Roots Roundup right now, Jim.
Let's do it, Matthew. Roots Roundup, news and notes from around the sport. Again, unsponsored. Reach out if you would love to have your company or just your name mentioned here. It's not super affordable, but you could afford it. All right. First key headline, Matthew, the Chris Ledlam, Jordan Dingle lawsuit, worth discussing here. 2 players for St. John's last year that spent their career before that in the Ivy League, and they are suing the NCAA for uneven application of the 5th year of eligibility. Now, I find this frustrating because it's a fundamental understanding of what the 5th year was. It was not an extra year for anybody. It was a free year in 2020/2021. The Ivy guys are basically saying it is unfair that they don't get it. There's 10 people in the portal this year, Matt, that missed that season with injury and are also, and they're not suing themselves, but are also, in the portal thinking they should get a 5th year too. But really it is, you get 4 years that are non-2020/21, and then that one was just free. Anybody that played that year, that was free. And the Ivy guys obviously have a slightly stronger case because they weren't allowed to play. The Ivy
they don't have a choice, right? Yeah.
But they could have transferred. They had the option. I just worry about this, Matt, because the black hole is unlimited eligibility at the end of this. If the NCAA can't enforce any limitation on eligibility, and I'm just I think I've mentioned it to you and Kai behind the scenes. I don't think I'll care about college basketball if there's unlimited eligibility. I just don't think I'll care anymore.
It's like something has to happen at some point to I think the tipping point at that point has gone too far. We're not going to get there, but man, with the momentum with some of this stuff and the lack of defense being played by anyone competent to uphold any sort of structure, I actually feel like it's going to be a lot of the NIL organization stuff. Like if we start to actually structure some of the contract things, maybe that kind of brings, we kind of come back then to eligibility and sort of tie in the NCAA or whatever the hell the NCAA replacement thing will be to some, keep things in line with your tenure at actual school, since the whole purpose of this thing is you're playing for the school in which you go to class and do whatever. I don't know. Yeah, let's not go there. Let's not go there. I'm with you. I'm not as doom and gloom as you, but let's not go there. We don't need to go there.
I just don't need a 10th year guy getting his 4th degree, continuing to earn some NIL money. And I just don't find that, I won't find that compelling. I will be very bummed out if that's the case. Just like to fast forward to, Matt, the period when it's a unionized player association and there's collectively bargained rules that aren't going to be challenged in court anymore because they are collectively bargained,
They're
and you can
right. They're
have
actual rules. Yeah. The
four
real
years of
rules.
eligibility and a strict rule for how many times you can transfer and what the sit out rules are on that, and a rule on what the exact like 10 games for medical redshirt, et cetera, et cetera. Again, once they are collectively bargained, they're not as subject to legal issues as we are right now, where the NCAA is on a who's the Globetrotters opponent? The Generals,
The Washington, yeah, it's not
Washington
even
Generals. They
right. It's like
yeah.
it's like they're trying to lose. They're just giving no effort. It's really weird stuff, although not surprising.
Yep. Yeah, not doing well in court right now, the NCAA. We'll see how that one goes. It is a big story to monitor in college hoops. Coaching news. Maryland Eastern Shore parted ways with Jason Crafton, Matthew, in the time since we did all our coaching hire grades. I don't understand this. I thought he made them competitive, respectable, and it is not a resource-rich school in a resource-rich conference. This feels like I just don't know what you're asking for from
Yeah,
a
I agree.
coach of UMES.
I thought he did actually a pretty nice shot with what he had. Like, it's tough to really assess accurately with what he did in such a little time. Yeah, I don't know what the bar is at UMass. It seems like a UMass right now, I suppose.
Apparently, yeah, there you go. Apparently, he wasn't clearing it, but it does concern me. Four hires since we did our coaching hire episode. Chicago State promoted Scott Spinelli internally. He was under Gerald Gillian there. Matt, seems sort of to make sense to just kind of see if we can keep what's working going. As Chicago State finally goes to a conference, they will be in the NEC next year. Mount St. Mary's hired Donnie Lind. Well, Matt, double check me, but I believe he is an internal promotion as well, which, Mount St. Mary's was in a tough spot with the timing of Dan Engelstad heading to Syracuse. The coaching carousel had pretty much, run its course. So internal promotion made some sense
Oh,
there.
no, sorry. He's from UNC Greensboro. He was under Mike Jones's staff.
Oh, okay. Good call.
Is
Thank
that
you.
right? I think
That's why
right.
I
Yeah.
have you on it. So
Yeah,
hey,
Mike Jones. Mike
shout out to
Jones.
Mount for being able to pluck somebody that late in the game. New Orleans did the same after their head coach, Mark Schlesinger, took a job up on the Indiana State staff. They hired Stacy Hollowell from Texas Southern, guy familiar with kind of that recruiting territory, recruiting level. A lot of junior college guys in the Southland, a lot of down transfers you're looking to get. That's what Texas Southern is well known for under Johnny Jones. So the fit makes sense there. And then finally, Florida A&M hired Patrick Crary II. Matthew, this job had been open for a while. I was worried it was going to be one of the ones that just like stayed open until mid-July, the way Bethune-Cookman did way back in the day. But Crary had been at St. Thomas, Florida, non-Division I school, reasonably successful. I don't know, Matt
I
McCollum.
like him. Jim, I watched the presser. That's how sick I am. That's how
That's how
slow
you
the
judge.
Aussie. Yeah, I kind of like him. He won the presser for me. I don't know what the overall tally was of journos in the room, but yeah, I like what he's selling. I think he actually knows what he's doing.
All right. Well, we shall see. I believe that rounds out the coaching carousel besides Eastern Shore when they finally are able to replace Crafton. You'd think they'd have a name in mind if they're letting go of a guy
I
this
would
late in
hope
the
so.
game, but
Yep,
we shall see.
I would hope
We
so.
shall see. Recruiting, Matt, there's a lot of activity simply because of the coaching carousel is the biggest reason. A lot of guys, Musselman, Enfield, Calipari, switching schools, which leads to a lot of recruits getting out of their national
Yep.
letter of intent and heading elsewhere. We will update you on all those real quick here. First one, Matt, the highest rated recruit, Jaden Quaintance, 5-star, who had been committed to John Calipari at Kentucky. He's headed out west to Arizona State. Mr. Bobby Hurley apparently has found a little bit of NIL money this offseason, gotten a few more high level players. This one seems odd, Matt. Our guy John Fendler tweeted about like the input his dad has on his career and how he keeps referring to them as like a we. And boy, I'm nervous. I know Mizzou had been chasing Quaintance. I feel like at this point I'm sort of okay with not having him.
I have a hot take. I don't think I think he's talented, but the Matty eye test didn't love the tape, Jim. Didn't love the tape. I think I see some not busts in college, but I think let down in college and like late bloomer type of dude. That's the vibe I get. Is that not what you get? Is that the wrong read?
No, I buy that. I think the development is going to need to happen. It's not like he's not a one and done immediate like NBA prospect. He's not on super high on NBA boards in the class of 2025. I'm with you. I think that could take a little more time than maybe Sun Devil fans are hoping. One guy whose tape I love, Matthew, Liam McNeely, the
Yeah.
former Indiana commit, now headed
Hmm.
to UConn. That staff can evaluate talent, so I'm not surprised by this. But McNeely, a headband warrior playing alongside Cooper Flagg at Montverde, can shoot, can pass, can dribble. I mean, this guy rocks, and he just seems like a perfect fit for them.
Yeah, it was a huge loss when IU let go of when he reopened his commitment, but now IU got Luke Goody. But that's going to be a fun thing to track. Liam McNeely on UConn,
Liam
perennial,
McNeely's way better than Luke Goody.
way better,
Way
right? But
better.
I think
Yeah.
if IU is going to be like in that top 10 conversation, which we'll see, maybe it could be ambitious, but that's sort of like that critical piece, just like Cam Spencer was. And now McNeely sort of steps into that same role, although he's much more just athletically and physically gifted, but sort of will play that kind of same role piece, just a cog in the machine that's so damn good, basically.
Yep. LeBaron Filan from Kansas. This one I think he's just kind of he because he got recruited over. He reopened his recruitment. He is headed to Alabama. Matthew, a 4-star point guard, top 35 guy. Uh, Man, yeah, good guard development at Alabama sort of makes sense here. We don't know if Mark Sears will be back right now. He's testing the NBA draft waters, but you could do worse than Aiden Holloway and Filan in Nate Oates' system.
Yeah, they're actually deep, I think, at guard. Not as deep as they have been, but I think they'll get probably one more guy and you bring in a top 50 dude. When you play so fast and there's so many possessions, you can sort of sell being a part of a deeper backcourt. I think it's kind of part of the brilliance of playing fast in terms of recruiting. More possessions. Yeah, I mean, not play as many minutes, but more possessions to prove yourself, put up bigger numbers, which kids do kind of care about. So, yeah, I think that's just kind of part of the beauty.
Yeah, and if the one guy they add is Mark Sears returning from the draft, that's like a top three
Right.
team. Like they're
Yep.
absolutely loaded. Grant Nelson also already back there for the Tide. Another former Kentucky commit like Quainton, Samto Cyril is headed to Georgia. Matt joining top 10 recruit Asa Newell in the front court for the Bulldogs. They also have Justin Abson. They've done fairly well in the portal. I think there's a lot of talking up the Bulldogs, but shout out to Mr. White for building from the freshman ranks as well here. Cam Scott, a top 60 shooting guard, is headed South Carolina. He's a former Texas recruit. Along the lines of Phylan had kind of been recruited over, wanted to find more greener pastures. Early playing time in South Carolina could potentially slot him into the starting lineup right away. Something we might discuss later as we talk about team needs in the portal. Justin Pippen is headed to Michigan, number 62 recruit, 4-star combo guard. This one, I think, was just a long running recruitment. I don't think he was a decommit from anywhere from what I could tell, but a nice little snag for Dusty May, not entirely building out of the portal, though he's done well there. Also grabbing a freshman. And Jace Butler, a top 100 combo guard headed to Washington, former Illinois commit. Danny Sprinkle benefits there. And Matthew, that brings us to the two big classes of guys following coach. First, you have USC, guys following Eric Musselman from Arkansas, Isaiah Elohim, and Jalen Shelley, Jalen, that is, two top 75 wings. And then Arkansas with three top 30 recruits following John Calipari from Kentucky, Carter Knox, Billy Richmond, Boogie Fland. Any takes for you, Matthew, from anyone I just recapped?
No, not particularly. The Georgia thing's interesting. It's interesting to see some of these kind of like lower middle tier. I guess in the SEC, it's where it's applicable, like Georgia and Ole Miss, like kind of middling basketball programs, relatively really step up with a lot of their money investment, and they're starting to really like be consistent players in the 5-star market, and obviously just huge players in the portal fishing pond as well. So I guess I'm happy about that. I don't know. Maybe I feel like it's actually eating into mid major types of gets guys that those schools might be able to land as a very democratic fan of our sport, which likes to see mid majors hold their spot in the totem pole. Maybe I don't like that. I don't know.
The Georgia thing also interesting too because of the big bump of Anthony Edwards that they're getting of like just
Huge.
every NBA playoff watchers like how'd this guy go to Georgia? And
His
hey,
his
Georgia,
Maui
you're getting
tape went
discussed.
viral like last week, like just the Michigan State game. So yeah, that's a great wave to ride if you're
Yeah,
Mike White.
Matt, that's the best individual half of basketball I have ever seen live in the college
That's what
ranks.
you're
It
there.
was it
Ah,
was unbelievable out there
better time.
in Maui. Yeah, man. Hopefully back in Maui next year. Shout out to the island rebuilding on Lahaina. Matt, that's it for recruiting. Transfer news. We're not going to discuss individual guys. Again, we will do a winners and losers segment or a full episode, excuse me, later in the offseason when Kai is back. Just a funny note, the whole like do not contact tag that guys can enter with was supposed to be like, oh, so you don't get bombarded. But it's basically just turned into I have been tampered with. Like I know where
Yeah,
I'm
right.
going.
Yep.
Don't call me. This almost backfired having this in there. It's not great. Every one of those guys, almost every one of them commits immediately when they're in the portal.
Yeah, I think you've seen some of the coaches kind of start to call out others, but I think what's happening is everyone's doing it to a degree. And so if you really are sure you're not doing it, then I guess maybe there's you want to start to kind of burn the
Yeah, the
forest to
Kim
the
English
ground.
one
But
went a
right.
little viral of like
Yeah, it did.
shouting, if you want one of my players, text me, I'll ask him. Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. I do think that's kind of shitty, but hey, I mean, it's everywhere. I feel like if you're gonna not compete with the other 300 teams doing it, then it's just like it feels like a steroids in the MLB in the 90s. It's like, well, you're just putting yourself at a disadvantage, and you probably should go ahead and play ball.
Yeah, there's some of the tricky stuff too. I was reading on good old Trilly Donovan's Discord, Matt, about um like RJ Davis's guy was shopping him without RJ knowing. Like,
Yep,
so is
a
that
lot of good
tampering
people
if somebody
involved in
reaches
this,
out
but
to you?
right.
Yeah, it's just all like the camps. I hate when players have camps, Matt, because
I know.
they're almost
I like
always
an
not
advisor.
helpful.
I like close family members and maybe a few trusted advisors. Camp just seems like there's some guys that probably aren't qualified to be doing what they're doing
Yep.
in your
Yeah.
group. So
There's been quite a few, some of the old big J's tweeting about that. Like, have a lawyer look at your contracts. Have a guy who's a certified agent, not just some dude calling NIL collectives and be like, how much you going to pay my dude? Like, there should be a little more structure to that. And hopefully players will figure that out. One injury to note, Rink Mast for Nebraska, just before we got on the air here, Matthew announced he is out for the year at Nebraska. He's getting knee surgery, said it's just kind of going to be better for his playing career and just living on his leg throughout the rest of his life. He played through a kind of a banged up knee this year. He will miss the entire season. He's maintaining his final year of eligibility, though, so we could see Mr. Mast back in 2025, 26. But it's a tough blow for the Cornhuskers, Matt, a team that we really liked watching, and part of that was Mast passing.
I was just looking at their roster, like, why do they get so many big guys? And I wonder if Hoiberg just was being smart with an insurance policy, knowing Mast's long documented injury history, or maybe he knew that this was a potential that he might actually be done. No, Mast is like at Bradley, he was beloved. He's just like an all team gritty dude, some shitty injury luck, and yeah, I hope he comes back next year, crushes it, and makes 500K a year over in Europe or more
Yeah,
potentially.
total fan favorite. Just a fun dude to watch. So best wishes to him on that speedy knee recovery. Matt, that's it. That's it for Roots Roundup. Let's get into some of these team needs. And if you want to outline to the people, I guess, generally how we structured this, we'll kind of go through by conference here.
Broke it down by conference. Sorry, mid-major, low-major fans. We got to start with the heavy hitters first. But we'll go alphabetical by league, Jim. Go team by team.
Not
Kind of
alphabetical by
say,
league.
go what? Wait, what?
Well, alphabetical by league, but not the teams
Sorry,
aren't alphabetical.
alphabetical by league. And we'll start with basically the key discussion teams within each league, right? Like who's good, who's not good. And then I tried to kind of group these, Jim, a little bit like on top of what we already did here, the specific kind of the specific need as well. So,
Oh, interesting. Then I have no idea what order we're going in, and I'll be
no, I will go
surprised
in the
by
order in
Matthias.
which
I'm excited.
I will go in the order in which you documented here. Man, there's just a lot of unknowns for all these teams. I found myself, Jim, let's just as a starting point here, saying a lot of I like this team. Like, and I worry I got like my natural bar of assessment was too generous. Like
That's
seeing
all right.
lots of
You'll get
nice.
stricter as the season
Okay, good.
comes
Yeah,
closer.
I'm like,
Also,
oh wow, look at this
you are well
big
known
shiny
for being
object.
not a strict grader, Mister. I will give
Correct.
out 3 of my Fs on
And
the
you
coaching
get an
hire
A,
grades.
and you get an A.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. I'm a nice guy. I'm a guy you want to have as your professor, as a TA. All right, the ACC, Jim, will start. Man, we could talk for probably 15 minutes on this first one, Duke. I kind of think they're really good right now. I know there's a lot of clamoring for another guard to add, but I think Duke's good.
Yeah, no, and we've got in the portal or in our in our outline teams marked that I think are pretty much good, and we can't really spend much time on them because otherwise we're going to be here for 4 hours on this episode. So yeah, Duke's good. They're set.
NC State, Syracuse, Jim, Virginia Tech, Pitt, Cal, SMU. You feel like those are all. You look at your roster right now and you think, yeah, I think we're okay. We don't really need another guy. Maybe one more here or there, but nothing substantial.
Yeah, they feel like more searching for depth. Most of those,
Yep.
almost all of them feel like they've got starting lineup set. I think NC State needs less players
I
personally.
agree. I wrote them down as like got too much stuff. That was one of my teams that got too much stuff. Too many individual dudes.
Yeah,
Not
it's
enough
like
quality.
Keats just had too much NIL after they went to the Final Four, and he's like, how many bags can I keep throwing at people? This is awesome.
I know. I would have put that aside in a fund and waited for the market to actually open up when you need real dudes, since there was no DJ Burns clone in the roster.
Yeah.
All right, Jim, UNC. RJ Davis back is pretty nice. Harrison Ingram, I kind of think he's going to stay in the draft, and I do feel a guy short.
Yeah, that's the spot they need to fill, assuming he does go. You need like kind of that tweener 3-4 stretch four type. I mean, there's Arthur Kaluma is like the kind of guy
Yeah.
that you're thinking. I mean, he's a very reasonable facsimile to Harrison Ingram. But some of those guys, we'll mention a lot of names more than once on this show, but
Yep.
just kind of in that classification, Kaluma, Dylan Mitchell, Adutiro, Maywat Mag. I think Sion James from
James
Tulane,
from Tulane's
be like a
great. Yeah.
perfect fit for UNC.
Yep. And actually, Jim, I went through your remaining portal list too. I tried to tag guys I like, guys I don't like, and guys we should talk about. I only have a couple of those, but yeah, Aya James is like I like this guy. I feel like he's better than people think, for sure.
Yep.
Uh,
Hunter always said he's the guy that makes us go. So yeah.
Virginia. I mean, Tony Bennett, Mr. Anti-transfer. I mean, does he need anything? I think he's a guy or two short, but is he going to actually do anything? Question mark.
You think he's a guy or two short? I think he's 5 good players short. I think that roster sucks.
It's
It
not
needs
good.
scoring. It needs a point guard. It needs athleticism. It's bleak. Like I think they're clearly worse than last year. They've got to get going. I know they've been trying. I've seen them mentioned with some people. Probably not great NIL coffers for them, but boy, I think they're in trouble right now.
Not a Tane Murray guy, Jim. No Tane Murray breakout here in year 5. No.
Maybe he
Okay.
does make his hay with internal development, but it's young and yeah.
This roster
point guard? I don't know. Ugh.
Yeah, it's not. This roster is Tony Bennett saying, "You don't think I can coach? Watch this. I'm going to do something with this team. You don't think this team's any good?" Yeah, Miami, Florida, Jim. Another one's like, a lot of team coming off a really crappy throwaway season. At least they refreshed the deck a little bit. I think there's still some talent short though, for sure.
Yeah, especially a point guard. I think that's the biggest need. Like Nigel Pack is a solid ball handler, but he kind of had the two-headed thing with Bensley Joseph last year, and I'm not sure there's quite that two-headedness unless you're playing Blackman there or Bethea, the freshman coming in. Maybe he's better with the ball in his hands than I realize. And again, freshman scouting is an off-season task. We'll get more to that, but it just looked to me like get them one more guard. I think they need one more guard.
Yeah. I love Louisville's class. Let's talk about Pat Kelsey real quick here. Depth wise, we know how important depth is to his teams, his best teams. They basically have 7 scholarship dudes, and then Ali Khalifa right now, who is not playing this year. They need depth. They just need. I don't care if it's bigs or smalls, just more bodies. That's all I need.
Yeah, I think you really need a big. James Scott, if you're playing
They are
16 minutes a
short.
game in the Coastal, I don't think you're like a 25-minute a game in the ACC. So finding another body, Khalifa being healthy would certainly have helped that. But yeah, we know he goes 10, 11 deep, and he really only has 7 healthy players right now. So we know Louisville's not done, but I don't think they need to be discriminate position wise. Like just get more guys. Just keep throwing shit at the wall.
I had a very similar analysis with Vandy. Interesting situation. I mean, not so far away. First year, new coach, Mark Byington, Pat Kelsey, 2 coaches we love. I think they've got a lot of good pieces, but are probably still a few pieces short because that's been kind of the hallmark of how those 2 dudes have been successful. They play with a lot of guys, a lot of different styles of dudes they bring at you. So yeah, same outlook for both those teams, I think, for me. Back to the ACC, man, Florida State, Jim. Bunny Colvin, our boy, Bunny Colvin. What's the sitch?
I think
What's
this might be the
happening?
worst transfer class in power conference basketball, potentially. I don't know. That's probably overstating it. We'll go through more of them, but it just seems like they must not have any money because they're taking like mid-major guys that weren't that impactful, like Jerry Dang from Hampton, Justin Thomas, who didn't play at UTSA. I'm
Yep.
worried. I'm very concerned about some of the talent that left Florida State in the last 2 years, and they have not replenished it. I think they're in for another shaky year at this stage.
We heard some rumors last year of non-NIL payments, so I wonder if you're kind of speculation there. There's some real merit to that, as they've just basically added nothing of real value at all, which is a shame to see. Georgia Tech, damn, my general enthusiasm for like a year two slingshot for Damon Stoudemire, coach, I like a little bit curbed as I've kind of looked at how the roster is shaken out. But you think they need some wings? I agree. I think there are just a few guys short in general.
Yeah, you're looking for scoring on the wing. I don't know exactly what the status is of Jalen Forrest, Lance Terry. I'm sure some Georgia Tech fan is like, idiot, they're gone, or idiot, they're there. It's hard to keep track of 363. I've got them in the roster sheet as question marks right now. Yeah, they could add Desmond Claude just went to USC. That would have been like a super fun kind of guy. Go
Yeah,
interconference,
perfect.
get Wooga Poplar. That'd be fun.
But he's got a deep freshman class. I think Stoudemire wants to kind of build sort of the old school way, which is a little bit, we'll see. But he does have a deep 3 4 stars, I think, coming in there.
I like that idea. It's just every year you got to
Yeah.
re-recruit them. Like that's the tough part.
Um, Wake Forest. Wake's had like one of the weirdest player turnover musical chairs of rosters the last 2 years. It's been very like, I don't know, just a lot of weird stuff has happened. Some bad luck, I think, for Forbes overall. But he kind of finds a way after what I thought was sort of a slow start to the portal. I think he's in decent spot here. Did Hunter Salas back at the forefront? Hildreth's still there. Got some
But Salas
punch
is the
on the wing.
important. Salas is the key.
Yeah,
Is he going pro? Like if he goes pro, my God, you're in desperate need of ball handling and creation. But no one has made ball handlers and creators look better in his
then
system than
Forbes,
Forbes.
right?
Like you get to pitch Alondis Williams, Tyree Appleby, Hunter Salas, Boopy Miller to
Yeah,
anybody in the
God, Boopy
portal.
Miller, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'll get someone. I think he's kind of hamstrung right now by Salas, and that's really he's been a victim of his own success. Like going back to Jake LaRavia, like just didn't anticipate the guys would go pro before or when they did because they were so successful. So he's got to find somebody. Even if Salas comes back, I think you need another ball handler in that system.
No, you're right too. Just the player development has outpaced the team success, and that's been at his misfortune with losing guys to, well, I guess to more money effectively. Boston College, man, a lot of their players ended up at decent spots this year too. Yeah, they're short up front for sure. Quentin Post obviously was just to do everything guy. That's just a ton of production. You got to get someone to step in there. That's where we identified the need.
Yep, McLaughlin went in the portal late. I
I
mean,
like McLaughlin, Vandy
I
guy.
do too, and that's why it's a tough loss. Like it's kind of similar. We'll get to Vandy and Van Allen Lubin going in the portal really late. It's like I wasn't totally expecting this, so now you got to pivot and maybe gamble on a lower level guy that you really like, especially at BC and Vandy. That's the kind of resources you have. You're not going to the top of the portal and sorting by most production and trying to get that guy. You got to find the diamond in the rough there.
Yeah, I mean, I love Chad Venning. I mean, he's a actual big. I just think they need a little more versatile, like it's kind of the inside out dynamic that McLaughlin and Post kind of brought last season. It'd be cool you could get some of that versatility, but not exactly a cash rich school competing in the ACC. Yeah, Clemson just comes down to PJ Hall, Jimbo, the darling of last season. Keeping most of their dudes. They lost 4 transfers, and obviously graduation hurts too. But like their roster is actually not terribly bad right now. I mean, it goes at legit 8 9 deep until you get to the freshmen.
Oh, Hall's back. I think they're like top 25. I like this team.
Yeah,
I loved RJ Godfrey, unfortunately, and he's gone. But you get the Hall Shefflin combo back up front, the Loch Ness Monster coming in from Cincinnati. You could do with one more wingy kind of guy. Like Jack Clark really seemed to unlock things for them last year, Matthew, with his
yep.
versatility. So somebody like that, I think would be key. Or maybe it's Asa Thomas, the redshirt freshman. Perhaps Brownell is content with what they have.
Yeah, the world would like to see a Chef and Hall front court again. That'd be a fun thing. But yeah, without a Hall, that roster looks very bleak very quickly. The more I think about it. And then finally, Stanford, which is in this conference now. I have to get used to that, but that's where we're at. They are. Kyle Smith was one of the teams in my head. Coach, I love. Portal season, I don't love. Nico Medved, Colorado State, another one. But Kyle Smith, just kind of thin right now. Yeah, you said winged and point guard. I think it's just more than that even. I know they got Max Reynaud coming back. That was a huge retention piece. But like even their forwards around, it's just basically him and a bunch of freshmen.
Yeah, they seem to be suffering from like last year's Shrewsbury Notre Dame thing, where like new regime, majorly high academic standards, just tough to get guys in there.
So you
I
got to
know
go young.
Michigan
Yeah.
Michigan struggles with a lot of like the higher underclassmen, like if you're a junior senior underclassman, they like can't get in. If you're younger, like uh, Sammy Walters from Alabama, you can get in. It seems a little bit easier, but Stanford's probably struggling with that same thing. And Kyle Smith just needs bodies right now. The roster
Yeah, he does.
is kind of barren.
It's I think encouraging though. I mean, look at Shrewsbury. We'll get to them in a second. But with Notre Dame, well, I guess we I do want to touch them real quickly. I mean, they have so much continuity from last year. It's like, okay, if that model works there, maybe at places like Stanford, Vandy with Byington. I mean, Byington's got a lot of transfers in, so it's been different. But if you have those issues, you at least feel like there's a precedent, and with the stickiness of the education, you can actually retain some those dudes and build it more of the old school
Yeah, it's like a
way.
mini version or not a mini version. It's like a power conference version of the Ivy and the Patriot
Right.
models where like
Yep.
they just inherently lose fewer transfers because you're there for more than just basketball. But
Yep.
at a power conference level, you're probably mostly there for basketball, but it does feel like you can build internally more at a place that has a lot more to sell you as long as you're competitive NIL wise. Like you don't have to be the best offer on the table. It's like, hey, we'll give you 80% of your offer plus a Stanford education. And a
Yep.
lot of guys that'll be appealing to.
I guess it also applies to like BYU and some of the, just geographical religious affiliation type stuff. The Baptist affiliation, some of those schools down in Texas as well. ACC complete. Trying to think anything else I wanted to say on these teams at large. Yeah, no, nothing really. Honestly, I think it's another year looking ahead. We'll see. I mean, there's a lot to unfold, but I didn't find myself thinking, wow, the ACC really dialed it back up, and now we're going to put them back. It's like, nah, the ACC is still a little bit weak in the meat.
Yeah, we'll get to the Big Ten has like the most teams that feel set because
Yeah,
they
they got
filled their
after it.
gaps very
Yep,
quickly. Yeah.
yep. But first, we talk about Big 12, and we could the Kansas. We'll talk about this later in the sun. The Kansas, we can litigate how good that transfer class was or wasn't, but they're set. Houston is pretty much set. We think Iowa State, TCU, Texas Tech, Arizona State, and yes, Arizona State are in the Big 12 now. Just a friendly reminder. So roughly half the league, Jim, you think in the Big 12 feel pretty good about their rosters. The other half are probably a couple of pieces short, as we'll get to. A couple are really short, really
Yeah.
short.
Again, these teams we mentioned, like it doesn't mean they're not going to add a guy. It just seems like if they went into the year
If
right
you
now,
don't
they
get anyone else, you're probably okay. Don't
yeah,
panic if you get no one else, I
yeah,
think. Yeah.
yeah. Arizona, if Caleb Love leaves, they probably need another guard, but I don't know if he's. Yeah, I don't know how much the pros are racing to have that guy on their team. So we'll see. I kind of expect him back, but that's based on zero inside intel. Do not take that to the bank.
The other one I might challenge you on, Jim, was TCU. I kind of have them as a fringe. Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe not. I don't know.
I wrote the caption one more forward. It does feel like for Jamie Dixon style, like that army of 6'7" guys, they're a little short
Yeah.
there.
And they were old last year, and next year will be a lot younger. Just weird. Very seismic shift from like all super duper seniors to I think a freshman class with like five guys coming in. Um, all right, let's start with Cincinnati. I'd seen that I looked at the roster and again fell seduced with again as I did this time last season. Jim, you think they're an athletic wing shy? I just like the makeup. I think they're deep. You're right. Maybe that specific position, they're not there, but I feel like they're pretty good at guard. They're pretty good up front, down the middle. Depth is there. I like Wes Miller. Eh,
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm overstating it. Like, obviously, Dan Skillings is the athletic wing for them, but yeah, if you could
yeah,
add another guy that can defend, I'm just kind of looking at my list of remaining guys, like a Dylan Ediwusu, or even like a Glenn Taylor from St. John's, that kind of player,
yeah,
rangy.
I like that.
I think that fits well with the way Wes Miller wants to defend, because yeah, they've got ball handlers, they've got creators, they've got an anchor in the paint and a good backup behind Bendigo. So just give me one more connector and I'm going to be seduced also, Matthew.
Yeah, Jim, UCF. I didn't have them in like my hard losers group, but awfully close. They have six scholarship players I think signed right now. They brought in Benny Williams from Syracuse, a guy I used to like. Rokas Yoshis from Drexel, the other big guy not named Amari Williams, and then Mikey Williams, the guy who's been in court for half the year. It's just not a lot to get excited about here, Jim, with UCF and Johnny Dawkins, despite bringing back two 15-point scorers in Darius Johnson and Jalen Sellers.
Yeah, man, I'm updating it now. I believe Keyshawn Hall has committed there as well.
Ooh,
And
from
that
Mason.
is
Okay.
that is on my ongoing roster sheet for not
He
being
was
fully
part of the
updated yet. We'll get
drama.
there.
Was he part of the drama with the Tony Skin stuff, I believe?
Well, and
Like
like late in the year, there was rumors that he was already shopping
he's
himself in
already
the
shot
portal.
himself.
It's like,
Okay,
all right,
yeah.
how committed is he to this team build?
And
It
wait,
just
and so
seems like
wait, sorry, real quick.
Dawkins.
And Benny Williams was booted during the year. So that's Mikey Williams, Benny Williams kicked off the team during the year, and then Keyshawn Hall coming with shopping himself baggage. Mm.
Second chance
Second
university.
chance
Okay.
UCF. I like that.
Yeah, no,
Um,
Dawkins always seems to do his work late in the portal. Like I remember
yeah, that's a good
interviewing
point.
him last year or 2 years ago for the American preview, and they added like two guys after that, and that was in July. So it just kind of he's waiting to see what's there, and maybe not. I wouldn't call it picking up scraps, but it helps for him when there's fewer shooters, I think.
BYU now under the direction of Kevin Young, Phoenix Suns assistant, replacing Mark Pope. They've kept a lot of dudes, as I mentioned earlier, kind of one of those unique, special type of schools that has some just natural, innate retention ability. Um, Jim, you think they're a dude short? I do feel like they are just a dude in little quotations short. But I feel like that roster is pretty systematically intact where they're going to be pretty competitive. I don't know. Maybe that's wishful thinking with who they lost.
I think it depends on the system. Like if they're running the same thing Mark Pope runs, you can kind of get away with the creators you have because the offense does a lot of the creating for you. And
Yep.
we'll discuss
Yep.
that with Kentucky, where people are losing their mind right now about like they need a shot creator. It's like the offense mostly does that in Mark Pope's system. But if not, I don't think Dallin Hall is enough at point guard. Again, he's a great caretaker PG that could kind of create a little bit when they desperately needed it. But without that, if they're running something more conventional, more pro style, and Phoenix was like the most ISO heavy offense in the entire NBA this year, partially because they had Durant and Devin Booker. So they backed into that. But if they're going to run anything similar to that, then BYU needs shot creators. But it's a tough place to get guys, or not to get guys into, but to get guys to come to because they have to
Yeah.
sign the honor code and stuff. And that was always impressive about Pope. So you got guys to come out to Provo.
And also their bigs were great passers too. So like that's another thing. It's if you're losing, I mean, with Khalifa, what was he like 4 or 5 assists a game, and he didn't even play a ton of minutes. So yeah, another underscoring year. You probably need a little more punch at that dynamic creator spot if you're going to veer away from what Pope did. But we'll see how he evolves schematically in his first year there. We head to Baylor. Scott Drew. Team feels thin, Jim. You mentioned front court needs here. It just feels overall thin to me. I feel like they're a guard short too. I worry about their guard depth. They've been very guard thin the last few years, of a key injury or two, and they just always feel like, man, they're just playing five guys, 38 minutes a game. I don't know. I think I'm with you. I think they're short though. They're shy of their final roster.
Yeah, they're if Langston Love is healthy, they're top six rocks, and if Jalen Bridges comes back, but that's not a definite. And Langston Love, you just can't rely on him, unfortunately, right now. He's just been too
Right.
too in and out of the lineup. It's frustrating for him, and I think he's a fun player to watch. But yeah, you just need more around there. They were rumored for Jonas Adu that headed to Arkansas instead. That would have been an awesome interior enforcer for them. Yeah, they need kind of some of that front court heft, and like you said, another guard would not hurt given the health concerns.
Yeah. West Virginia, I think, is one of the more interesting squadrons. I had them in the got a lot of stuff group of my segmentation. It's like I think I like the stuff. I don't know if I love the stuff. And I think they still need some more stuff. And you're saying another guard. I agree. Their backcourt, I know it's going to be like a lot of just get the ball to Tucker off screens or sets, so you don't really need him to be a rock star, but you need a little more, I think, punch stepping up to Big 12.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like a holy crap. This is a Big 12 roster. Outside of like I like Javon Small, he's already played in the Big 12. Tucker DeVries could play wherever he wants. The other guys, Sincere Harris had some moments for Illinois before redshirting last year, and then it's kind of like filler. So yeah, more Big 12 capable pieces would be nice. I know it's easier said than done. And DeVries is a terrific evaluator. So even if he takes some
Yeah,
guys that might seem below, Toby O'Connor's a 6'8" wing that could suddenly look awesome playing in a very well coached system. So yeah, it just they need to fill in around what they have right now.
right. Small's dynamic. I might be underselling him. I just don't like that he's never really been a part of a winning team, but I mean, that's all DeVries has done. So I kind of trust the DeVries angle there if I have to
Yeah,
merge those
neither
two.
had Atten Wright, right?
Well, yeah, and
So
right, who just went from Cal State Northridge losing to like an indispensable part of a legit tournament team. Yeah, that's the Darian DeVries effect, I would say. Let's talk about Kansas State. Emaw, the Octagon of Doom. Jim thinks they're a piece shy. I am a harsher grader. I think they're a couple of pieces shy, Jimbo, with what Tang's done so far. Doug McDaniel, Brandon Housen, sharpshooter, Christian Jones from Illinois, Chicago, empty calorie guy, and then the Arkansas backup Bayfall. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the Bay Fall is kind of a pedigree thing. Like, do you believe he was a top 30 recruit and should be way, way better than he was on that
Yep.
complete mess of a Arkansas team last year? Or is he going to actually live up to that pedigree? We'll see. You're right. You're probably right, especially in the front court. And they had the odd effect of like as soon as they brought in guys, people left. Like Day Day Ames got out of there. Arthur Kaluma was kind of late into the portal. It seemed like guys got turned off by like, wait, you're bringing in competition for my role? I'm out of here. So yeah, there's almost no depth on that team right now.
They
Tank
they
doesn't even
lost
do
they
that.
lost a lot. I mean, they really like I thought they'd keep at least one of those dudes from the core last year. I'm not saying a key piece of that, but at least one of those. I mean, the only core guy back is Gassan, who I actually really like, but I mean, that's all you had coming back. That's a tough starting point. With just having to replace all of your roster and your bench, not just key pieces within it. Let's go to Oklahoma State. I love Mr. Lutz. I think this team is multiple pieces shy, Jim. God, I'm a harsh critic of I guess of the Big 12. I'm sort of um, calling out the
We got
NIL and
we
boosters
got
here.
high
Do
standards. We
more.
got high
Spend more
standards
money.
for Big
Yeah,
12 teams.
exactly.
Yes.
Steve
Yeah,
Lutz, Jim. Yeah,
yeah, you got
what do you think?
I need a little more size. Robert Jennings is your starting center. You have issues. See what happened to Texas Tech when Warren Washington went out and they were trying to throw him at Big 12 front courts. Just not enough size up front there. And yeah, you could certainly use a little more dynamism at a point on the wing. Arturo Dean was a lot of fun for FIU, but I don't know
Yep.
that he's a winning Big 12 player
He's
at all.
not.
So
He isn't, Jim.
yeah, no.
He's
Okay.
not.
All right.
I love the fit. Like most frenetic offensive point guard, Dean led the nation in steal. It's just like a Tasmanian devil type of fun thing to watch on the floor. Lutz, the fastest offense in college basketball last season, makes like an obvious fit sense. But I watched enough of Arturo Dean losing money betting on FAU or FIU, excuse me. Um, I think you need something else there, Steve. I'd get another point guard. I'd get something
Yeah,
else.
there's a lot of point guard questions in this conference, especially the next team, which is Utah. Matt's taking a drink, so
But
I'll
Jim,
put
I was
that
just
in
gonna
the.
say, yeah. Well, I went so Oklahoma State a point guard short, Utah definitely a point guard short. That was the whole hype around Davion Smith last year. I'm just looking at the positional breakdown you did of the remaining portalers. I do feel like point guard is deep. Like there's point guards out there, like good point guards that can start in this league right now. I mean, I feel like there's 3 or 4 on my list I would feel good about going to war with. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
So Utah, Jim,
if you
other
if
than point guard, anything else?
yeah, you could use more athleticism on the wing, and then losing Keba Keita as one of like the 11th hour right before midnight entrance just
Yeah, it's
came out
tough.
today after the portal had closed that he's in there. That one really hurts. And I saw some Utah fans talking about how he was a fan favorite. So like just you add that to if the team's not going to be that competitive, you take out a guy they love. Selling tickets is going to be an issue. But yeah, folks, memo to you: if you want Matt to fall in love with your team, go get Duke Miles because Matt loves
Duke
Duke Miles.
Miles. Thank you. I had him circle Jim. I had Tyler Johnson from Louisville. I think that's like kid
Reclamation
that is
project. Yeah.
just an absolute home run of a talent. I mean, that guy screams like an eye test guy for me. And then who else did I like? Where's my there? And then Kadari Richmond, obviously. So we'll say I know
Oh,
he's
you
more of a
like
bigger.
Kadari Richmond? Like you're the
Yeah,
best
so
guy in
not
the portal
exactly
right now?
surprised. It's
What a
like there's one more.
creative
Yeah, I
take.
liked him. Okay, yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
Not going to overthink that one, but I do think he's like legitimately awesome and a winning player. That aside, I do feel bad for Utah, man. It just feels like Craig's been so close to like really breaking through there, and they just haven't, had 1 or 2 bad turns of injury each season. They just haven't quite had the depth to get over the hump. Um, and then Jin closing out the Big 12 with their mountain brethren, Colorado. My concern is Dion hogging all like the NIL funds? Like I think they're short too. I mean,
Yeah, I'm
they
surprised that this is a Big 12 team that's gotten a D3 and an NAIA transfer. And maybe those guys are great, but it's just surprising to see that's where they've turned. It kind of tells me the resources aren't really there, and
It must not be
we've got to
there.
go alternative route to find players. Yeah,
At
that's
Colorado,
one of
you're in
those.
the Big 12. Right. This is not like Morehead State where you have to go take a shot on Riley Minix. Like that's just smart bang for buck recruiting. Maybe Colorado is that. That's weird because they brought in, yeah, the two non D1 guys who could be awesome. Like they both are like very highly regarded, but then you also bring in Washington State's fifth best player in Yakimovsky.
And you have no point guard. You
And you have no
desperately need
point
a point
guard.
guard. Yep.
I feel bad for Boyle because last year they should have been like really awesome, and they kind of got to that point late, but just never got to like roll the momentum into like a really super dazzling season with all their injuries. Yeah, tough. All right, so Big 12 takeaways. Maybe I'm selling the Big 12 this year. Again, it's May 2nd, but as of this moment, maybe there were more Big 12 coaches on April
It's
vacations.
a haves and have nots league right now. Like there
I
are
know
some
the
awesome,
chasm's
like I
starting
think
to,
that the very
yeah,
top, those three, Kansas, Houston, and Iowa State, are like top six teams. And then yeah, definitely a chasm to the rest of the
kind of odd
roster
for a league that
spots.
we used to always cite its depth as one of its beauties, but yeah, with more
Yeah, like I said,
members,
it's May 2nd. Yeah.
yeah, it's May 2nd. All right, Big 10. I apologize, Big Ten fans. A lot of teams we're not going to talk about because I guess we're generally applauding the overall Big Ten work in the portal. Also in retention, there weren't as many Big Ten holes to fill either. And I wonder if that's just because some of these Big Ten schools, like Michigan and Northwestern, maybe even Wisconsin, do they have that academic Purdue to a point, right? Kind of academic stickiness where it's just easier to retain. You don't really need to compete dollar for dollar on the money. And of course, Jim, Indiana, my institution, the Harvard of the Midwest, as they call it. So,
Are you the Harvard of the Midwest, or are you like the Amazon of the Midwest, just throwing money at the problem?
we are
That's
good at that, man. What
yeah.
Mike Woodson, how quickly the naysayers quieted, just throw a bunch of bags at some really good players, and all of a sudden your roster looks top 10. And that's kind of what life is now, is like a legit blue blood, crazy upset. Louisville, same thing. You got awful last year. I mean, got awful. 2 months later, you're back in business. I mean, that's where it is.
Very much.
Um,
But yeah, Matt, the ones we or I guess kind of denoted as
yeah.
pretty darn good set, like starting five, maybe a sixth or seventh man looking good. Depth could be added in any of these schools, but Maryland, Indiana, Michigan, like their rosters are almost done, like all of
Yes, I
them.
love all three. Agree.
Wisconsin, I don't love talent level. The guys they're bringing in, I don't think replace what went out the door, but they're basically there on scholarships. So unless they pull off some sort of coup late, then I think they're kind of set there. Michigan State brought in one transfer. Hooray, Tom Izzo, good job. Jeremy Fears, if he's healthy
Fiddler
at
on the
point guard,
roof.
I think that I think the Spartans will be fine. So hopefully Fears is fine from that odd gunshot wound that he suffered, I think, over Christmas break. Iowa, Purdue, Nebraska, maybe one more big with Mast announcing that he is out. Minnesota's honestly fairly solid. They're a little like Wisconsin, where hey, more talent would help, but them, Penn State, Oregon just got TJ Bamba. Matt, those ones were all like, there's no like, holy crap, massive hole, fill this in immediately.
I agree. Minnesota, I just want to like the fact that they lost Eli Hawkins. It's sort of the last second, maybe unexpectedly. I know there was like the actual announcement he would be returning, and then he actually wasn't returning. Um, but yeah, they still have a point guard, Mike Mitchell, and the roster looks shockingly good. I think it's just fun to see Minnesota after we were sort of throwing in the towel in the Ben Johnson era. Well, he has a good year last season, not tournament, but competitive. And now I'm like, okay, I can see maybe things break the right way in non-con. You get a couple of good wins at home. You build some momentum. This could be a tournament fringe, flirty, bubblicious type team. So good for Ben Johnson and the Gophers.
Yep, agreed.
Let's then pivot to Illinois, which the roster turnover with this program the last 2 or 3 years, just like it feels like it's just ridden with, I don't know, not drama, but just stuff changes all the time. Like the inflection points within this program seem like they changes by the day. Yeah, they lost more than they probably bargained for, but not surprisingly, they did replenish pretty quickly. Underwood's been a pretty good pretty aggressive portal pursuer for his whole tenure there. Jim, they need another wing since they had two of the best ones last year in the country. And they brought in Trey White, who played at Louisville, who didn't win many
Yay.
games. But I love Ben Hummerkaus. Like love, 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 love him. Maybe I'm overhyping him.
Yeah, he's really good, and I think we liked him a lot from a gambling perspective because the team was two different people without him. When he played, they were confident and covered spreads, and when they didn't, they were horrific and didn't. So it was pretty
That was
easy to
nice.
decode who they were and who they weren't. I don't love what Illinois has done here. Boswell's solid, but he like never, ever, 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 ever gets to the rim or the free throw line. All he does is shoot jump shots. He cannot put rim pressure on you. And Booth is on a bad team, but has good potential. White was on a terrible team. I think they need more, and it probably will get more. It's Underwood, and Illinois clearly showed last year they've got um, NIL, but I don't. I'm not settled at all if I'm an Illinois fan right now.
No, I'm not either. You have a losing starter at wing. Kerry Booth, are we big Kerry Booth guys? I kind of like the upside a little bit, sure. But
Upside's
man,
there for sure, but yeah,
it's just a reach. And then Boswell, like, why is he not a rim guy? He's a bulldog. Like, I don't get why he settles for the shots he does sometimes. Yeah, I'm with you. My eyebrow will be raised at Underwood for most of the rest of the summer, just deciding who all he can lure in still. Uh, Northwestern, again, just shocking that I feel this good about this team, despite the fact that you just lost Boo Buie and Ryan Langborg, 19 and 13 points a game, respectively. Boo Buie, like all time leader, program, perennial, like statue worthy type guy. But they brought a lot back and they got two decent pieces to plug, like maybe one more guard, but I think they're set, Jim, for like what they're going to be probably.
yeah. Which maybe it's they're not going to probably be a tournament team again without Bowie, but I think they filled in the right gaps right now, getting another big and a true point guard to play alongside Barry. Very logical approach to the portal by Mr. Collins. I just one more guard would make sense to me.
I would agree. Ohio State. Jimmy talked about how the Ohio State thing was odd with their transit, with the turnover they had, given the interim internal coach hire with Diebler. I guess we'll call Michi Johnson a boomerang retention guy. They bring in Micah Parrish and Aaron Bradshaw, but still, I feel like they lost quite a bit with those five guys going out the door. Maybe it was actually a right play to refresh, given those guys were part of two non-tournament seasons. Probably best for both parties type of situation. I don't know.
Yeah, and like he brought in talent. You can clearly see the upside swings, and like Michi boomerang, like you said, and then there's a chance Bradshaw is a complete
Bradshaw's just a
destroyer.
monster. Yeah,
He
exactly.
he
Right.
didn't have a preseason as a guy who was hurt. I think there's more to be unlocked there with him.
I agree.
But yeah, I'd like to see kind of a connector piece. We talked about those a little bit. Somebody that fills in like either a stretch big, like a Nate Santos from Dayton. There's a local hire if you're looking for
Yep.
it. I think he would be a great fit. Somebody like that of that ilk, I think meshes well with what they already have.
Let's go to Rutgers. Steve Peichel got some big time talent. Still cannot believe he has two of the best five players in the class. I don't like Ace Bailey. I love Dylan Harper. Jim, there's a heavy winds. Are you hearing these winds outside your window right
Yeah,
now?
the
Dusty.
storm has rolled in Chicago,
Storms.
Matthew.
We're gonna battle for the elements here. Jeremiah Williams, who we know mattered a lot when he joined the team last year. I don't like the transfers. I think they need more. I don't know what it is, but they need more in general. I'm not a Zach Martini guy from Princeton. I think he's just a filler.
Oh,
At
I think he
best.
can do. I think he can be a front court
Okay.
Langborg. I think
Ooh,
that's
okay.
I think that's a nice
Oh,
fit. Just a shooter alongside the studs, doesn't need the ball. I just think they need a defensive enforcer at center. Like they need a Cliff Omarui type.
the guy they lost to, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Vole did not impress me with the eye test last year, and they don't have like any options past him. So getting some kind of defensive presence for a team that typically thrives on that end, that would complement the scoring that they have in the freshman class.
Yeah, I wish they would have kept Mag. Kind of more defensive, physical wing presence. I feel like that's lacking a little bit. Maybe Martini and Bailey can be some of that, but that's where I just feel like and that without the big guy that we just talked about, I feel like they're losing a little bit of their enforcer identity, which is what made them so hard to play against. We head to the West Coast, Washington. Could use Jim. You said another guard or wing. I had like multiple guards. I'm just not a huge fan of what they have right now in the backcourt. Danny Sprinkle, I think, just the late part of the hiring cycle, a little bit slow to get after it. But like overall, I'm not super enthused by this roster at this point. Just not.
Yeah, I think even if they're going to get great Asabor at the end of his like tour day USA, and he's got the Sprinkle connection, that would make the front court look really good and have a ton of options. But the guards are just bad. Like you got to get him the ball, you got to have some shooters around him, and I don't trust what they have on this roster right now at all. And if they're going to dump a bunch of NIL into Asabor to go with Breidenbach, Kepnang, like I don't like that structure. So I hope they focus more on the backcourt.
Yeah, and again, depth. Like I think Sprinkle's been a guy that's played. He's used lots of different bodies. They ran deeper than we thought they'd go last year at Utah State. So I feel like this is a situation where they get some what looks like not great transfers, and they end up being just better than we thought. Like Sprinkle's a great evaluator. I think he'll find some diamond in the rough late in the cycle, and this will be a much more competitive product than I think it looks like it's going to be right now. Because right now it is kind of bleak.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
and where are we on the list? Yes, there we are. USC and UCLA. Jim, I have a lot to say about both these teams.
Okay. Well,
Um,
I'll start. USC needs another guard. You can't play 40 minutes of Clark Slackard at point guard. I mean, you could kind of by committee it with Claude and St. Thomas, and there are some competent guys with the ball in their hands, but I think you need a true ball handler. And UCLA, they've just thrown a bunch of wings and guards at the issue. It's a Mick Cronin team. Get a paint enforcer. Get a guy who's actually good at the rim, rebounding and blocking shots. I don't feel like these teams fully match their coaches' identities right now, Matthew. That's what I'll say.
I agree. They both got a lot of stuff as you'd expect. Like new coach Musselman, got to overhaul the roster. Sure, it's what Musselman always does. On top of that, UCLA, you had to reset the roster because last year didn't work, and Cronin was miserable the whole year. Like he talked about how he liked the young guys, but I think he ran that team in the ground late by the end of the year. Just didn't mesh with him. So I think it's very clear he brought in six guys that are all upperclassmen. So like at least they'll be older this season, but I do agree there are missing pieces roster wise here for what these coaches are. And then obviously the Kobe Johnson from USC to UCLA. I think he can be an awesome, and I mean an awesome player under Cronin's tutelage. Just kind of following the who got hurt 2 years ago, UCLA, awesome defender.
Jalen Clark.
Ding Clark, thank you. So I can see that being a kind of not a reclamation, but just like people forgot how good Kobe Johnson was last year because that team was sort of weird, but he's a great player. Uh, Big Ten, yeah, Big Ten might be good next year. Like I might go all the way on the Big Ten next year, like full
I can't
chips
wait.
in middle.
Good.
Yeah,
Can't wait. Let's see it.
I need some allies in the Big Ten corner, so we'll see. All right, Big East. Let's go through who's set. UConn, yeah, UConn's good. UConn's going to win it all next year. So everything we'd say basically after this point, it's not even worth discussing. Xavier could bounce back from Sean Miller. Providence, I kind of think Providence might be a guy short Jim, but I think we can discuss that. Butler and DePaul. DePaul was set like 2 months ago. That's kind of my favorite team so far. It's like got a bunch of quantity. We'll see if it comes together in quality form collectively under notable floor raiser Chris Holtman. Jim, any thoughts on those five teams? Providence is the one I was like,
I was a little surprised UConn announced they're good in the backcourt. Like like through Norlander, they said we are done.
yeah,
I
yeah,
thought
yeah.
one more like ball handler, athlete defender type. Like, I guess Mahaney can be secondary ball handler, but it feels like they're missing the Castle Newton bigger guard, Andre Jackson. Like it doesn't feel like this team has that. Maybe it'll be Jalen Stewart. Maybe it's internal development, and they're of course terrific at that too. But yeah, the other ones I'm you can always add a piece if you're DePaul or Butler, but I'm a big fan of Xavier's roster already.
Speaking of rosters, I love Marquette. If you mentioned that they need a point guard here, I think Marquette's set. I think I just love that they're going to roll with their internal stuff and just trust it all the way through. I'm betting on that.
The rumor is Sean Jones is not going to play.
He's not going to play it all this year. Yeah, okay.
It's like
that's
time.
huge.
Somebody DM me his timeline is February. It's like, wow, then you need a point guard. You need a point guard.
Okay. Yeah, that's tough. He's kind of a huge piece. I love him. Okay, I didn't realize it's that long. Okay, I'm going to revisit my Marquette take if Sean Jones is going to be out till fit. Villanova, I'm not going to revisit my take. I'm out on this team. They have no bigs, and I just don't trust Kyle Neptune. Done.
Yeah, this team's front court is a debacle. We talked about it in Trilly's AMA. Somebody's like, what's wrong with Villanova? Do they just run out of money? I'm like, I wonder if people just aren't given money because they don't believe in what Neptune's going to do with it, because last year he did nothing. And definitely like other people catching up. There's more money in the market right now. You've got more competitive bids coming in. I think this could be the tank disaster, re-energize, like not quite to the extent of Louisville, Matt, but get a new guy in there that everybody can rally around and be pumped about. It just feels like a dire circling the drain situation to me.
I agree. The sooner this marriage ends, the better for all parties. I do believe that, and I don't, not saying he deserves to be, but I just think it's better at this point, given how far the momentum has swung that direction. Jim, I think Georgetown is another one in this boat. Like, I just don't think the Ed Cooley mojo is rocking like it was a few years ago.
Nope. No,
It's just,
this team's not good. This team's
no,
not
it's
good
not.
again, and they need to add more. They don't have a center on the roster. Not that Ryan Mutombo is going to make any impact, but he's the last tall guy to leave the roster. They need pieces. They need a lot of them. Otherwise, it's going to be another tough year, and Providence fans will continue to dance on the Cooley grave.
Speaking of Seton Hall, St. John's, the two New York-based programs, a little bit of unsettled uneasiness, Jim, from the Johnnies and Rick Pitino. Why hasn't he absolutely crushed the portal yet? I think there are more fish to come. And Seton
This
Hall
is
a
what
little bit
happened
light
last year,
too.
right? Isn't that what
Yeah, it
happened
was late.
with
It
St.
was
John's
late.
last
That's
year? It's
right.
kind of a late burn for them, and obviously they didn't end up making the tournament, so it wasn't a perfect scenario. But I think he is not done, and there are a lot of guards still in the roster as we look at it. It seems like the off-ball combo, even initiators. Like, I'm not saying I have no, again, a lot of the speculation we have no inside information on, but like if he got Kadari Richmond, no part of me would be surprised. Like if they just
Yeah,
St.
right,
John's
right.
found a bag for the guy from or cross state, Big East rival from Seton Hall, then perhaps that would be something that changes the outlook for St. John's. But then Seton Hall, it seems like they have no money,
They
and I
have no
think
money, right? They're
Holloway
just
hates
broke.
it.
Yep,
Everybody's leaving.
yep.
It's that one seems like a tough situation. He's going to have to find some diamonds in the rough, like Bediako last year was for them.
Yeah, that was the Seton Hall was my biggest takeaway from the entire league. Like that team, like liked each other last year. Like it was actually a fun team that probably should win the tournament. Definitely should win the tournament. Proved it in the NIT. Had they been fully healthy the whole year, who knows how much better they could have been. They had a young nucleus kind of burgeoning beneath the scenes, and it just all got pillaged. I mean, I know Coleman comes back, but like, yeah, that's tough. And then one last one here, Jim Creighton. I kind of think they're set. Definitely one of the more cash rich schools in this conference, and I think the roster reflects it. Obviously, Kalkbrenner coming back is huge. Pop Isaacs will make how many threes next season?
He'll take a
200?
lot. I know he was like hurt this year playing through injury, but he shot like crap from beyond the arc for Texas Tech. But hopefully he'll get a lot better shots in this offense, and playing alongside Kalkbrenner, having a much more capable and healthy pick and roll partner after Washington got hurt. Yeah, I mean, I just a little more athleticism. Like it's kind of the same
Yeah.
complaint, right? Get to somebody. Jermaine Neal is more athletic a wing than they've had, and he's bigger. But I'd like to see a little more juice there if you want to get to true national title contender status for Creighton.
Yeah, I think I agree. All right, Jim, let's fly through the SEC. I'm going way too long here. I
Yep.
apologize. And there's a lot of schools to get to in the SEC. Ton of money, and I think the transfer activity reflects it. But there are still a lot of teams here with I think needs that are still going to be working through the May month of the year. LSU, shockingly, nice work, Matt McMahon. Like nice little roster we compiled. One of the few where it's like, yeah, it looks like you're set. Texas A&M, Jim, I love that roster. Hate watching them play, but generally like the roster. Ole Miss as well. Like a lot of stuff, but a lot of quality stuff. Maybe a true center, but to me, they didn't defend anything last year. Who cares if you defend this year? Just get better players in that same skill, speed type mold. And then you have Mississippi State, which I also agree with. So four teams we like right now, basically, as is.
I don't like LSU, but I think they're done. Like they don't have spots left. And they've got a.
I
I'm
like him
not
more than you
super
do.
huge fan of
That's
what they
fair.
did.
I like him more
Yeah,
than you
I
do.
think the ceiling's still like middle of the SEC with that group, and that's
Matty McMahon loves those mid-major guys, man. Just like, you need to. There needs a little more talent infusion, I think. But I like the mid-major guys that got this season.
yeah.
Let's go on Mizzou real quick. I kind of like Mizzou too. I don't feel like there's a ton more needed with the roster you have. Am I being overly
They
bullish
need
on
they
what he
need
brought
defense
in?
and rebounding. They're still in the
Yeah,
hunt
it
for
could be a
15
pick.
minutes a game at center of like a true 7-footer. Ben Laketon, Josh Gray are some of the names linked to him. And that's fine. Like maybe I
Or
could have put them in.
Modiara, maybe Modiara from last year. Yeah,
Stop it. Maybe I could have put them in close to fine because that's more like depth. Maybe a starter, but not like a 25-minute a game guy. It's like let's just plug some holes for 15 minutes a game.
yep. Kentucky. Kirk Krissa, man, I just don't like that guy, Jim. That was sort of I liked the roster transferred dudes until I saw that name. I was like, I looked at it again. I'm like, yeah, no, I still like the team. So a
Yeah.
lot of very versatile pieces here for Pope, but I generally like the individual pieces mostly.
And at least he's not running 1,000 pick and rolls. It's let the offense do your work, and he can shoot the crap
He
out of the
can
ball,
shoot
and
for
he
sure,
has
no
his
question.
entire career. And that offense will produce shots for him. In that role, he'll be solid. It's just when he has to do too much creating and he turns it over like crazy that becomes a problem.
Do you like or is Kentucky's roster better as it stands now, or Arkansas's, Jim?
I prefer Kentucky's. I'm guessing Arkansas has more to add than Kentucky does in terms of high level. Like Kentucky could have been in the mix for Osibor, but they got Garrison. I would have preferred Garrison, or excuse me, I would have preferred Osibor just for like
Yeah, different
more
players, but I would have said,
creation,
yep,
guy you
yep.
can actually play through on the block in that system, kick out the shooters. But I like Kentucky right now. Arkansas is still kind of young. Adu and Nelly and a bunch of freshmen isn't enough for me. And I know that won't be the end roster. So we'll see.
Yeah, Arkansas is not even worth discussing right now, honestly. Florida, they did their work early this year as they did last year. I think it's good as is. I actually kind of like what they've built. Maybe one more.
They
What are you
need a guard,
thinking?
man.
A
They need
guard?
a ball handler for sure. I saw a mention of like Shulga, Matt. I would absolutely adore this team if
I
they
love
added
Shulga.
Shulga to
Shulga's
this
on
team.
my he's on my list as guys I like here. Yeah, first guy highlighted actually. I think Shulga's a complete piece. Offensively, can do it all.
So hey, go get Max Shulga. It's that simple.
I think Walt and Martin will be fine at point guard. We'll see.
Oof.
Um,
I do not want Martin handling the ball a ton for me. No
I don't know if I
thanks.
wanted it that much either. I think he's fine as your third or second ball handler. Maybe I'm too bullish, too biased on the Golden
I mean,
train.
it just like how good was that team when Poland was the guy pulling the strings? Like
Yeah, that's
they
true.
they
Yeah, they went to
so
another level with Poland joining the roster like this. It's a very good point. So maybe that type of piece is what they will miss if they don't find one. We talked about Georgia earlier in the program. Yeah, a lot of turnover here, but what do they need? Maybe one more guard. I think I agree with you. The Blue Cane, fun, can shoot it, but I don't know if you need if him and Demery are going to create shots for you. I think they need a creator, a dynamo.
yeah, and it doesn't need to be a scorer. It like how Minnesota got Eli Hawkins and he averaged 7 assists and only 9 points. Like that's kind of what you're looking for. Like a pass first person to play on this roster, I think makes sense.
Vandy, I love this Vandy team, Jim. I like spent way too much time looking at it today. Like they might need a big,
They do need a
but
big. I'm certain they need a big.
okay, yeah. Part of me is like, that's not how Byington plays. I don't think Byington needs a big, but in this conference, stepping
Yeah,
up, I think
but
you need a counter. You're right. You need a counter. I agree. I came all the
Lubin
way around on
Lubin
it.
leaving hurt. Venel and Lubin would have
Yeah,
been
it's
a
stuck.
perfect centerpiece for them from a structure standpoint. Now he's gone. I think you have to fill that hole. You can't go forward without filling that.
Yeah, I don't think Vernon Carey's little bro is SEC star. Maybe he is. I don't know. I don't think he's an SEC starter though. That's just my opinion.
He's just not
But we
that
love
big.
McLaughlin as we mentioned. Who? Oh yeah, yeah,
Carey's just not that big. That's the problem.
right. Um, and Alabama looks pretty sharp. The question with them is always, are they sharp defensively? Jim, could a rim protector be in Nate Oates' future? They have another 4-star guy coming in, a springy guy. I know.
Aiden
Aiden
Sherrill,
Sherrill,
but
whennever, yeah.
yeah, he's like I think more 4 or 5 tweener. And we saw how good they were defensively with Bediako as the anchor. Anienso and Omori are the names to watch. Like they're in the mix for both. And you put one of those shot blocking monsters in the middle of this defense and bring Sears back, and holy crap, that team is good.
Yep. Yeah, they'll be good. The Gamecocks, South Carolina, pretty good retention. You got right back, you got Studi back, you got Murray Boyles, who is awesome. I kind of thought he'd go pro. Shocked he's not going to stay in. But good for them. Got Pringle from Bama, Jordan Butler from Missouri. Who cares? They could use one more just piece. Just feel like a fringe starting caliber piece. And I feel better about this roster.
Especially in the perimeter. I mean, the way Cooper and Michi
Yeah.
Johnson settled things down and were like very intelligent, veteran backcourt players. Jacoby Wright's okay. Cam Scott brings the freshman juice intrigue, but I'd like to see an adult in the backcourt, Matthew. One more kind of veteran, like even just a repeat of Talon Cooper, somebody like that.
Yep. Yeah, Auburn. It was like a team that was built so well in depth last year. I wonder if that actually hurt them in the portal. Like they actually lost guys they probably could have kept because the minutes were too democratic. But they kept a good chunk of their roster. John Abrams back. They got JP Pegues from Furman who rocks. I still think depth is a key part of why they're great. They just need another, like I said, kind of fringe starting role piece type of experienced dude to pair with those two top 100 freshmen.
Yep. Just give me one more kind of creator. If it doesn't have to be that, if Pegues and Pettiford can handle that role. I love Pegues. I love this roster, Matt, with Broom back. They're going to dominate the rim again. Yeah, one more just piece, and they've only gotten one transfer, and it feels like they've got NIL to do better. Maybe they're throwing it all to
Maybe
Broom
they're
to keep him in
saving.
college, or just giving it. Yeah. So I think they will get one more piece, and I think this is like a top 5 team. I am big
Wow.
on Auburn next
I
year.
like Chris Moore a lot. I think Baker Mazara is just like a quintessential winning player. Denver Jones was way better than I thought. Yeah, that team's good. I think they are. I think they're still a little, yeah, depth shy right now is what I'll say.
Yeah, they'll get
Uh,
there. They'll get there.
we'll talk about two burnty oranges: Tennessee, Texas. Tennessee, I was torn on, Jim. I feel like they're actually fine right now. Um, they're deep and they're old as they always are. Now, I mean, you lost some key pieces, but like you didn't really have a choice with some of those, probably. So I think they're fine. What you think they're short another score potentially? I guess Dalton Connect was pretty good, so you don't really have them
Yeah,
this year.
I think as it stands, they're like typical Tennessee, like the lower
Old
ceiling,
Barnes, Tennessee,
incredible
yeah,
defensive. But they're heavily rumored for Lanier, Chaz Lanier, who went in the
that would
portal
make
with the
sense.
do not
Yeah,
contact tag, and perhaps that is why. And he's a completely inferno type shooter. I don't know if he's a scorer the same way that Connect was, but he is a great shooter. And perhaps that's all they need. Dubar is a great shooter. Yeah, they're going to be consistent top 15 again.
and then Texas. I just really think the fits are weird. I hate that the Indiana State guys landed here. I feel like they're going to actually help this team a lot, but it's a lot of It's an island of misfit toys for me, Jim. I don't feel like they need anything else. I just think they need a different. They need to redo some of their acquisitions and from a fit perspective. I don't know. Maybe I'm too bearish on this roster, but what's your take on Texas?
Yeah, it's an odd like we got mid-major star pieces from
Amalgamation of
Indiana
just kind of
State
odd parts and
to a
weird, very eclectic styles of play.
yeah, a top 5 freshman Tremont Mark who has, has talent, but that Arkansas team was a mess. Jordan Pope is on a terrible Oregon State team. I've seen a lot of their fans be like, we need another front court piece. And given Shedrick's health concerns, I kind of buy that. You don't want to be stuck with Onyema playing big center minutes. Finding one more body there to kind of a 4-5 tweener type, even if it's someone kind of stretchy. How about Van Allen Lubin for them, Matt? I think that would make
Yeah,
a
that
lot
makes
of sense.
sense. Yep, I agree with that. Skilled. Yeah, because Disu and Shedrick were so good as like a tandem last year. That kind of kept the belly of the beast
Yeah, it's like the UConn
solidified.
thing. Just have
Yeah,
two
right.
guys you can barrage teams with.
And then finally, Oklahoma, aka Broklahoma, as our friend Dan Schmidt likes to say, and they certainly are looking pretty broke in their transfer return, Jim. But we say it every year with Porter Moser. It's like they need more, but Porter does a pretty good job with it, what he has. But this feels like his bleakest roster at this point in the last couple of years.
I am not a fan. I think this is like the worst roster in the SEC right now. Moser probably raises it above finishing last, and they'll be competitive, and you don't want to go to Norman, but they're lacking talent. They need wings. They need another guard. I don't love this, Matt. I'm very concerned, and a true center. Like it's just there's a lot missing right now.
Yeah, there is. All right, let's hit a few other shim. We'll sign off here. Call this the power. I didn't really go through mid. I just high majors. We'll call them WCC, mostly Mountain West, etc. A10. Colorado State. I want to talk about Colorado State real quick. I'm actually going on Tom Monster's podcast tonight to talk about the Mountain West, but then they have been pillaged by the portal. And I think you're looking at the Lobos. Even the Aztecs are in a better situation, but even there's I don't know if I love that roster. And Boise State, we'll see what they do. I know there's a big bomb coming there potentially, but yeah, Mountain West overall. I mean, and then add Utah State. I'm sorry, Utah State and Nevada being the exceptions, but most of the Mountain West, I think, were hit really hard.
Yeah, I think Calhoun did an awesome job getting Falslev and
Yep,
Martinez
to
back out
stay.
of the portal at Utah State. And he's added some pieces. I mean, he was always kind of a portal wizard at Youngstown State, which like we know they weren't throwing money bags at people, and
Mm-mm.
it's not some like glorious, beautiful campus that you go to Youngstown, and you're like, I gotta be here.
Wow, shouts to
So
Youngstown.
um I sorry. No, I won't. No, I won't say sorry. I think he's done an awesome job. Nevada looks fairly well set, like you said. Alford has filled in the blanks admirably there. A couple guys that went out the door. Mountain West, I have my concerns on that. Like Toppin going in late, I thought he was almost the difference maker for them with athleticism, physicality, defense to go with the scoring backcourt. I know you're happy your boy Dent stayed, despite rumors to the contrary.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but I don't think that league is getting 6 teams in again next year. Let's put it that way. Colorado State is, oh, I'm scared for them.
Yeah. Nico Medved, I think, just got that's a tough sitch. Let's talk WCC real quick. Gonzaga St. Mary's. Gonzaga's roster looks a little bit light again. Oh wait, no, it doesn't. It's really good actually. Potential title, not favorites, but we certainly think they have a little bit of an upside to get there this year. But they might be a guard short, a dynamic guard short, Jim. I think you agree. Yeah, you said
Yeah,
Khalif
just
Battle here. Yeah.
well, I'm not like in love with Khalif Battle, but he's visiting there. So they're at least like looking at that kind of player, somebody dynamic, wing scoring, something you don't I just can't see Hickman and Nemhard play 38.5 minutes each again. Like
Yep.
every game, it was like if either of them doesn't play well, they're kind of screwed. You need another option there. I like I like that they're looking at those types. Again, I don't think Battle's the guy I want to see. There's somebody like Tyron Lawrence from Vandy or Shulga. Again, I mentioned him. I guess you could go further down the list. I don't know if I want them like getting Jordan Ivy Curry or anything, but I, Matt, if they got Duke Miles, how much would you swoon over
Yeah, I was
them?
gonna say I'm looking at my list here. I like Duke. It's funny, man. I saw some big schools going for Ivy Curry, by the way. I just think that's such a reach. Yeah, give me Duke Miles, Jim. That's a I'll be investing behind you on this on that future, no question.
Yeah, I think they're like where they're at right now, like surefire top 7 team. And I'm saying, get me another guard so I can feel good about you, like top 3. That's where
I
I'm
mean
at.
that team is so deep. I'm so glad they just like overachieved last year. I think relative. Well, sorry, I would say an overachievement in terms of the weak roster, and then they had the momentum coming into this year, and now it's like Gonzaga's kind of back to Gonzaga next year, which is going to be great. Stay healthy, still Venters. Jim, last take on St. Mary's. Gus, the reigning WCC Player of the Year, by the way, I cannot believe he won that, but he is
Goose,
back. Goose,
Goose.
pardon me, Goose.
Yeah,
The Goose is loose. I miss calling him Gus, but it is Goose.
yeah.
Um, Aiden Mahaney leaves. Everyone else is back, mostly.
I mean,
Um,
yeah.
Josh Jefferson's a big loss, but yeah, I think they're going to be fine with what they have. I think he's going to trust their internal stuff.
I think that's probably what he will do. And Morauskas is solid to get from Arizona, like good foreign
Yep.
pedigree. We know that he can develop those guys. He's done it for years and years and years. It's just like I think 2 of their 3 best players are Saxon and Wessels, and they can't play together at all. That's going to be kind of a conundrum, but we did mention how valuable it is to have like 2 centers and be able to bludgeon people. So perhaps that works. And then Jordan Ross was a really highly ranked recruit,
Yeah,
got
he's got
buried last
pedigree.
year.
Yep. I
Um,
think Barron and
and
Forbes are
and
going to be solid too. I think that St. Mary's is kind of back to okay, no one's thinking about us. We're just like the stepchild to Gonzaga, but I think they actually might be really good again.
I think
But
they're
I
going
don't know.
to be pretty darn good defensively. I think they
Yes.
will struggle to score next year.
Yeah. Well, it happened last year at times. But yeah, no Aiden Mahaney or Josh Everson to bail you out. That's all we got here, kids. I still have a ton of notes I didn't share. I think I'm going to save a lot of this stuff for the actual portals breakdown, the Holy Bonanza when Kai joins us. Um, and our plan is to record next week or week after, maybe.
I think we'll be back next week. You know
Yeah.
what we should plan to do is the annual like postmortem on our previews where we kind of go back through the takes, what we get right, what we get wrong. I think it's always fun to do that, Matt, because we gotta be
Yep.
accountable. Who did we say was going to be good that stunk, and vice versa, and what do we actually get right? I think
You don't
it's a
need
fun
to
way to
save
do it,
it.
and you get a little
Yeah, I
statement
agree.
program type of thing too.
Yeah, you don't need to save our receipts. We'll save them for you and show you and spit them back in our faces as needed. But yeah, that's a great annual tradition. We'll uphold that here, as we uphold so many of our fine traditions on the 3 Man Weave College Basketball Podcast. Thank you for stopping by. We did miss you, Kai. Hope you're enjoying the schnitzels and the
Alps, the
lagers.
beers. Yeah, we know he's drinking a
Yes,
lot of beer out
whatever.
there.
Yeah, good for him. And thank you for stopping by and taking time out of your Thursday to join us. Until next week, I'm Matt. That's Shem. Take care. Yeah, sorry, I went way longer than I was in thinking.